empirical understanding of mutation, how mutation occurs. So if you recall yesterday's lecture by Kunal, the probability of no mutation approximates a negative exponential distribution, right? And that basically means as time elapses, the probability of no mutation declines. In other words, the probability of mutation increases, right? So Pij is then basically, you want a change. So 1 by 4 is probability of change from one particular base to one other base. It's again, four balls in a basket. You pick a ball and you're like, oh, it's an A, and you put it back, and then you're like, what is the probability that I will get a G, which is like a mutation from A to a G. And what is that probability? Huh? Louder. No, of getting a G.
1 by 4.
Yeah, 1 by 4. That's what it is. Right? And we want that change. Because 1 by 4 is also the probability that you'll pick the same damn thing. But you don't want the same thing. You want a change. Right? So that's why we multiply it by 1 minus e power minus v, which is the probability of mutation. Okay? So now we use this formula to calculate probability of change, where remember v is branch length. Is everyone following me? Yeah? Alright. So we have all the ingredients to calculate likelihood. So here's v, branch length, and remember v is mutation rate times time. Okay? So I've just a whole bunch of branch lengths here. You take this branch length, plug it in there, and you get or over here, and you get PII, probability of no change, and Pij, probability of change. Okay? And remember, this is like very simple calculation. For example, Pij would be 1 by 4 times 1 minus e power minus, if your branch length is 1, okay, you plug in the value of e, whatever e is, I don't know what, 1.7 something, right? What is the value of e? This is that. Huh? 1.73 something. Anyway, you plug that in there and you will get that value. No, sorry, that value. Pij. Okay? So, is everyone with me? Okay. So now you can get this matrix. For example, for branch length 0.4, Pii is 0.75, Pij is 0.08. And look at these numbers, and I want you to comment on it. As the branch length increases, what's happening to Pii and Pij? Both are decreasing?
So Pij is increasing Pij.
Yeah, Pij, which is probability of change, is increasing. That makes sense, right? More longer the branch, that means more changes. And probability of no change, that probability actually begins to decrease. And basically that's another way of saying probability of change is increasing. All right. So now we have, so remember, in the middle is probability of no change. A remains A, T remains T, the rest is all change. So now we take these values and we have our matrix. where these are the values for change. In the middle is probability of no change, given this branch length and Jukes-Cantor model of sequence evolution. Is everyone with me? Okay, now you plug in the values and you get your likelihood. So again, we go back to this simple tree. And we assume equilibrium Bayes frequency is 0.25. Okay, so that means this becomes 0.25. Probability of change from A to a G given branch length of V1. And let us assume branch length is 0.4 for both the branches. Actually, we should play around with branch lengths to come up with the higher likelihood, but that's too complicated, so we just say it's 0.4. Given branch length of 0.4, these are the transition probabilities, right? So change from A to a G, the probability is A to a G is 0.08. So you multiply 0.08 there, and times the probability of change from A to a C. That's 0.08. Then you have to add that to if this were a G. Again, equilibrium Bayes frequency, this would be 0.25. Here, there is no change if this were a G. So probability of no change is 0.75, G remaining G, right? And then along this lineage, G changes to C, 0.08. Similarly, you do it for T and C. You get the probabilities, you add them up, and that is the likelihood of this tree. Yeah, so that is the likelihood given this tree and Jukes-Cantor model that you will get this kind of data. Now I have an assignment for you. You'll have to calculate likelihood. Only then you'll understand, you know. Okay, wait. Before that, there's more to come. But anyway, did everyone understand this? Any questions? Remember, in this calculation, this bracket does not mean that you are multiplying it by the branch length. It is the probability of this change given branch length V1. Okay. So, this gets a little more complicated. What we have done is we have calculated we have sort of decided that this is the tree, right? But the tree actually also contains this. And we also assume that this is the root. And that's why we multiplied it by 0.25. The 0.25 multiplication happens at the root of the tree. Okay? So, actually, we have to get rid of 0.25. Right? So, we are just going from here to here, which is just these things. Okay? So, these are then the probabilities for X being A, G, T, and C. Okay? Similarly, the probabilities for, Y being A, T, G, and C can be calculated. Same calculation. So we have calculated for this node, probability A, T, G, and C. Similarly, for the other node also, we calculated. Okay? So now we have gone from here, come here. Okay? Alright, so we have the probabilities for both the nodes. Now we can pick one of those nodes as the root. Okay, here I've randomly picked Y as the root. So now we have to go from here to here. if it were A and this was C, T, G and A, what are the probabilities? If this were G and this was A, G, T and C, what are the probabilities? So we have to do 16 calculations. Okay? Voila, here we go. This I actually did this calculation, and you know, because I suffered so much, I'll make sure all of you also do these calculations. I did that for all the sites. Okay, so here we go. Let us now say that y is A. Okay, the probability of y being A is 0.06, and the probability of and then what you have here is x. X can be A, G, T or C. Okay, so probability that y is A is 0.06 and and x is also A, so that is probability of no change, times the probability that x is an A is 0.064, right? Remember we got this from this exercise here. That gives you the probability of that change there. Similarly, you know, this is still A. If this were a G, that's the case, and so on. Right? And then we move on to if this were a G, and this were a T, and this were a C. So we get all these probabilities, we add them up. Right? This is for the two nodes given that it's A, T, G and C, A, T, G and C. What is the probability of those changes occurring? And then we multiply it by 0.25. Remember, we need that prior probability. So this then finally gives you the likelihood for that one site given this phylogeny. Okay? By one site, I mean this one site. Oh, I've been going forward. Okay. All right, so that was site number one. That was the likelihood. Okay. Site number two, we need to do the same thing again. Right. So I actually did that for site number two. That's the probability that's for site number two. The ancestral state is A, G, T, and C, A, T, A, G, T, and C, and then you do all those multiplications wherever there is a change. You multiply it again by 0.08, if there is no change by 0.75, and so on. And then, you know, you do that for every site. That's site number 3, 4, and so on, right? And once you get for all the sites, you then multiply it by 0.25 because you have to multiply it by the prior probability. And there's your tree. There's your likelihood. So this is the likelihood for each site given a tree. Now, the likelihood of a tree given an alignment, that is all the sites, is then the product of likelihoods of each site. This is where the product comes into play. Okay, because each site you're calculating it separately, and then eventually you have to multiply the likelihoods from each of those sites. Now the problem here is, so just pay attention, is that the likelihoods for each sites are already a very, very small number. Right? And if you multiply all these really small numbers, you'll get a hugely small number, a very small number, right? And computers cannot handle, such small numbers. So what people use a simple trick, and that is you take a log of each of those likelihood scores for each site. right? So since individual likelihoods are extremely small number, it is convenient to sum the log likelihood of each side. So if you take the log, then so natural log would, if you have a whole bunch of things that have to be multiplied, and if you're taking the log of each of those, you can sum them up. Right? So that's why when you look at the likelihood score, it says log likelihood. And it's always a negative number because it's a very, very small number. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so you just add it up. So I did that for. By the way, that was my calculation, and that was the calculation. I think in the computer program. So the computer did a better job than me. Why do you think computer got a better likelihood score? Is this a better likelihood score than this? Negative, right? Yeah. So it is a better one, right? But why do you think computer got a better likelihood score? What could be the reason? Louder?
Maybe while calculating the you have rounding.
No, not much. I don't think it's a rounding up thing.
You assigning is different from how the computer assigns.
Assigning what?
The
No. I just did the calculation, right? But I made one major assumption. I don't know if you people. Can you tell me what is the assumption? Branch length. I kept branch length constant at 0.4. All the branches. Right? The right way to do it is you change the branch length and see if your likelihood score increases. So my tree basically all the branches were same length. But maybe if it was something like this, the likelihood score would be better. Right? Because your transition probabilities will change. Right? As the branch length changes. Okay? So anyway, so that is likelihood. And yeah, so I didn't calculate it for the other two trees. I did the calculation only for one tree. The other two trees I got the values from the computer. So basically tree 1 has the best score compared to the other two trees, best likelihood score. So that is your maximum likelihood tree, right? So let's just quickly go over some of the models, right? So what we used was Jukes-Cantor. All these changes are equally likely. Everything is A.
Friends, I have one question before going on to the another. So the probability of maximum likelihood can be tree 1, tree 2, tree 3, or is like most probably the high chances always tree 1.
Yeah, the difference does not seem a whole lot, right?
So it can be, for example, the best tree could be 3, 2, 3, 3, or 3, 1, either randomly or higher probability always would be the 3, 1. The best tree.
The maximum, see, when we see maximum likelihood, we are picking the tree with the highest likelihood score. Right? So in this case, it is tree number 1.
Yeah.
So in
tree number 1 can be sometimes a tree number 3 also, right?
How can tree number? No, I'm not able to understand this. The two trees have different topology, no?
Yeah, but then if in case if there are data, I mean, if there's different data. So if tree number 3 has the highest maximum likelihood value, I mean that is a probability. I mean, like there is a chances of 3 being the best tree, right?
For a different data.
Yeah. Or is it always a tree one that?
Yeah. So that is a different question altogether. Different data sets can give you different trees. That can happen. Right? And that can happen with any method.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
talking about starting tree 2. So she's saying here we started with tree 1.
Huh.
We got tree 1 as the best tree.
Yeah.
What if we start with say tree 1, tree 2, tree 3 and the third tree has the best likelihood?
Yeah.
That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
No,
She's
that
saying
can never
the starting
happen.
tree is the starting tree the best tree always.
No. Here we just picked, you can randomly pick the third tree and you'll still get the same calculation.
Oh, okay.
That won't change.
Yeah, and another
Huh.
another thing I wanted to clear was like usually 3-1 usually has the maximum likelihood, right?
Because we landed up picking the best tree as the first tree all the time. Because we know that humans and chimps are sister to each other. That's all. But we could have started with tree 3 and nothing would change. Yeah. Okay. Any questions? Jukes-Cantor model, all these changes are equally likely, and in the diagonal here is probability of no change. Right? Kimura 2-parameter model, alpha and beta, right? Transitions and transversions have different rates, so our matrix would change accordingly. The matrix that I showed you was that, but in our calculation. And then the most parameter-rich model, GTR, every change has a different probability, right? And so on. So when we compare likelihood and parsimony, parsimony ignores branch lengths when evaluating trees. So it's just going to not bother where that base has to fall. Where remember we had situations where two scenarios were equally parsimonious when we were placing the ancestral state. Parsimony won't care, which branch those changes should actually fall on, because it's giving the same value. It will just pick one of them randomly, right? But here, likelihood actually plays around with branch lengths to get a better likelihood score, right? So extreme differences in branch lengths or elevated rates of molecular evolution can create problems for parsimony because it's not correcting for multiple hits. Okay, but it can be corrected using transition to transversion ratio. I talked about it. Anyway, likelihood considers that changes along long branches are more likely than short ones. Estimation of branch lengths is model based, and its likelihood is consistent under many situations, right? So by and large, likelihood is far superior than parsimony because it uses a model of sequence evolution. But the huge problem is it is computationally very intensive, right? So that is the issue with likelihood.
Ravi,
Huh?
question.
Yeah.
What do you mean by weighing scheme is subjective?
Where is it? Yeah. It is. So you just look at your. It's not exactly subjective, but you are looking at the data.
It would advantageously will be the part of the model itself, right? At the level of
No. In parsimony, you're not using model. Yeah. So what you're doing is basically, you look at all the substitutions in your data set. And then you ask the program how many of those substitutions are transitions and how many of those are transversions. And from that you get a ballpark figure of how often transitions occur. And based on that you weigh your transversions more. So in a way it's subjective. It's not it's not being estimated by a model of sequence evolution. Okay. Okay, so I have an assignment for you before the T arrives. I want to make sure you all do this calculation so that
The T is here already.
oh, it's here. Huh? Oh, damn it. You guys are very lucky.
Saved by the bell.
How long has it been since it's here? Oh my God. Because the next talk is at 11:30. Right?
No, I have a good question.
Yeah.
Like, we already have some tree sets and then we calculated the branches and so on. So the software, how does it pick up the first tree? So
We'll come to that. Yes, in the past, it used to be a random tree. We'll come to that tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Hey, but let's just quickly do one thing, yeah? I want to make sure you guys get the hang of it. So, let's have a very simple tree, okay? And let's say branch length of 0.5. Okay? If branch length is 0.5, PII is 0.7, PIJ probability of change is 0.1. Okay? And our simple tree let's use Jukes Cantor. So equilibrium base frequency and all that, right? And we just have human and chimpanzee. Human has say A and chimpanzee has a T. Right? So our tree is just that. A and T. Okay? Given a branch length of 0.5, what is the probability? Can you calculate it? And we are using Jukes Cantor. So equilibrium base frequency is 0.25.
can you show the calculation formula of that tree? Like, you have to do only this much calculation.
Yeah, so this can be A, T, G, C.
Basically, we have to figure out what is it.
Yeah. You have to calculate that likelihood. Right? Remember, our transition matrix is something else. What is it? 0.7 and
0.1.
0.1, yeah. 0.7 for no change, 0.1. So I'll give you the PII and PIJs also, right? So PII is 0.1, PIJ, probability of change, is 0.7. Huh? Oh, sorry. 0.1 and 0.7. Okay? So I'll do one. You guys have to. So let's say it's a A. Right? Prior probability of A is 0.25 times probability of no change is how much? 0.7 times probability of change here given this branch length is 0.1. Right? That's about it. This is for A. what would it be for T? Polamir, correct, no? Huh? Hey, no copying from the board. Huh? You have to do it and then compare it. It's actually quite simple if you think about it. It's so what are the results we are getting?
0.0175.
0.0. Okay, and for this? Yeah.
And 0.0025.
See, there's something interesting here. If it is a T, it is saying it's more likely.
So even with
Yeah, and for A also. Because that means it has to invoke only one change. Right? But if it is a different base, the likelihood goes down. Right? Now, if you add this up, that is the likelihood of that tree. That's about it. Right? It gets complicated when you have more nodes, but this is how you do the calculation. So that would be 20, right? 7, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
0.04.
Okay. Now, if you get rid of this, it will then give you the probability of A here, of T here, G here, and C here. Right? And then you can do the same for the other part of the tree. And then you have to do that mishmash to get the, if there were 4 taxa. Here we have only 2 taxa. So that's it. That's your likelihood. Did everyone get that? Yeah? So, this one is assuming equilibrium base frequency. There are some models that do not assume equilibrium base frequency. So, those models will then estimate the frequency of the various bases. Remember, I showed you a data set where I think T was 0.34 or something like that. Right? So, then you would actually put 0.34 here. Right? As you add more and more parameters, those parameters have to be estimated from the data. Jukes Cantor, it just assumes 0.25 so that it's not even bothering to calculate the base frequencies. But if you want to incorporate base frequency in your calculation, then you use one of the other models. I forget which one it is. Right? And then the base frequencies have to be estimated from the data.
So in that case, only the initial values will change.
Yeah, these values will change. Yeah, yeah. And then in case of Kimura 2 parameter model, this value will change. Right? Depending on whether it's transition or transversion. Here, whether it's transition or transversion, it's 0.1. Right? And in case of GTR, every change will have a different probability. Okay, so you can imagine this calculation in case of GTR will be, you know, each one will be a different value. And it will be computationally very intensive. And those values also have to be estimated from the same amount of data. Okay. All right, I think we'll break for tea. Any questions?
So after tea,